Hello, this is Mr. Hatton, and today we're going to be working in Microsoft Word, specifically with managing text flow. And if you're interested, we're going to be using a block of text from The Life and Adventures of Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. It's a public domain book, so if you're interested or working with the text, I would encourage you to check it out. So with managing text flow, what we're going to start with today is looking at margins. And so what margins are, they are the space around the page that you'll be working with. And so right now the margins are set to a default value, and so that's what you're used to seeing. But we're going to work with this text a little bit to make it look nicer, neater, and more presentable. And so the way that we can change the margins is under Layout. Under the Layout tab, and there's a margin group under the Page Setup group. If we click that drop down, you'll see that you have several preset options. We've got normal with a 1-inch margin all the way around, narrow with a 1/2 inch margin, and then several others that give you different degrees and different differences with that. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to select the narrow margins just to see how that kind of changes it. So you can see when I click it, right away it moves everything to a closer to the edges of the page. So it's allowing us to work with that text flow. But what if we didn't want it to be exactly the 1/2 inch margins? That's when we would have to go in and actually set our custom margins, which is also pretty easily to do and would allow you to make changes that are specific to what you want to do with the document. So what we're going to go do is we're going to go into our margins, and this time we're going to select a custom margin. And for this one, this time we're going to change everything to 1 inch other than the top margin. The top margin, since we're going to use this as our title page, we're going to set it to a 2-inch margin just to give that a little bit more, move the title a little bit further down the page. So we'll set that to a 2-inch margin, and then we'll just click OK. And so what you can see is it moved everything down the page. It's not that I've hit space to move the text down, it's just that the margins are set there automatically. What you will also see is that it's actually moved it all the way down on all of the pages. So we're going to work with that in a moment on what could we do if we wanted this first page to be different. But for now, just be content with seeing that it does change the spacing from the edge of the page, and we can set that separately for each margin or use the presets that are in Microsoft Word. So the next thing we're going to do after we've looked at margins, another way that we can manage this text flow and change the text flow, is the actual orientation on the page. So it's actually also in the Page Setup group under the Orientation drop-down. We click that, and there are just two options here. The default, the way that's going to come up automatically, which is Portrait. You might think of that as being the normal way, but that's where the longest side of the paper going up and down. Or there's the Landscape option. You can see the difference here. That's moving from side to side. If we can select that, you can see that it's now made the page to go long ways. So it's going side to side rather than just up and down. But for the purpose of this paper, we are going to change it back to the portrait mode. So the next thing that we're going to do, since we want to have a title page to go with this section of text first, we need to insert what we would call a page break. Microsoft Word has different types of breaks that we can use to break up the flow of the text to make it easier to see and give natural divisions to the readers who might be looking at that. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to click in front of the character, so where we want it to move everything from this point down. We could also do that by clicking at the end of this character or at the beginning of this one. For this, we're going to just go ahead and start at the beginning of chapter 1, go ahead and move that down to the next page, start everything else from there on a clean page. So the first type of break that we're going to use is just the page break. So you can see it's in the Page Setup group. I'm still under the Layout tab. Click on the Page Breaks. See the Breaks tab, and then select Page. And you can see that's going to move everything down to the next page. One thing I do want to do while we're with this is go back to the Home tab and turn on the Show Hide command. So we're going to turn that on so that it at least shows us where everything is, and you can see that it's actually inserted a page break right here, so we can see where it's added that block of text. We can see everywhere we've actually moved the page down by the spacing, so here's where we just hit Enter. We can delete that space if we wanted to. You can see it hasn't changed anything yet because we still have the page break. But what if we wanted to get rid of the page break? And this is something that's important to see, that if we wanted to do that, we can just click in front of the page break and press the delete key. So I just hit the delete key on the keyboard, and that got rid of that page break. I'm going to undo that command, by Control-Z, the shortcut for undo, and that will put that page break back in, or I could have gone back into the page layout, breaks, and selected page break again. And the next type of break that we're going to look at can seem like it does the same thing if you're not careful, but I want us to see a distinction between a page break and a section break, which would be using a next page section break. And so what we're going to do is we are going to go in right behind this page break, and we're going to add, and again from the breaks page, but this time we're going to drop down to the section break section and tell it to start a section break at the next page. And so what this has done, as I had to delete the extra space that came in there, but we can see with our hidden features showing that it's added a section break here as well. And so now if we had not had this page break, it would have moved everything down to the next page. But a key difference here is that now Word is going to view this page and every page down, so everything that's in this new section, it's going to give us different options to set here. So if you remember when we were working with the title page, we set a 2-inch top margin. And now it doesn't make sense to have every page after this after the title page to be a 2-inch margin. So now what we're going to do is make sure that we have our insertion point down in the new section. Then we're going to go back to our margins tab, and this time instead of setting my own, I'm just going to go back to normal. I'm going to click the normal margin, so it's going to move it back to a 1-inch margin at the top and both sides, and you can see that it made that change. However, because I have the section break present, you can see that we still have a 2-inch margin back on the title page. So if we were to add another line here and make a title page that went to 2 pages, like let's say we wanted a table of contents and we still wanted to have the 2-inch top margin, if I stayed in this section and just added extra spaces or even another page break, then those margins would stay the same. But if I'm down on any pages after this section break, now it's going to go by the new rules of where the new margin are. So we can scroll down and see that on all the subsequent pages, it's gone back to the normal margins, the 1-inch margin on all sides. The next type of break that I want us to look at is what we would call a continuous break. This is also a type of section break, not a page break, but this time what it's going to do is it's going to allow the text, it's going to create a new section, but it's not going to break up the text onto a separate page. And so this allows us to apply formatting and text flow options within a section, but without changing it for that page. And so what we're going to do is we're going to isolate one of these paragraphs. We'll just pick this paragraph right here that we're going to isolate. We're going to set different margins for this one, since that's kind of a theme of what we've been working with, how to set the margins. That's an easy type of formatting to get used to. So we're going to click at the beginning of it. So I've just placed the insertion point before the I in this paragraph. And then I'm going to go up to the Breaks tab and then add a continuous section break. So you can see that it showed, and again this is only showing because we have our hidden features showing. But I'm going to now click down below or after this paragraph and add another section break, another continuous section break, and we can see that now just this paragraph is isolated. It did add an extra paragraph here, so I'm going to delete that so it doesn't show up, but just this section is in section break. One thing to remember with that is that now it's not just that this one is isolated, but this it's all separate. This is one section, this is another section, so we would have to change this as well. So I would suggest if you're going to isolate sections and you want to do a lot of formatting changes, you may want to format everything and then go back and then change the isolated sections. You can do it piece by piece as you're typing a paper, but if you've already got a block of text typed, it might be easier to format everything and then go back and just change the ones that are separate sections that you want to be different. So what we're going to do for this one, we've got a separate section here. We're going to click down in that paragraph just to make sure that we have it within the section that we want. And now we're going to go to our margins again, and this time let's add the narrow margins. And so you can see that it moved at the edge. One note about this, the place where I got the text, I didn't type all of this out. It was entered line by line with a actual line break at the end of each section. They hit enter at the end of each section that was keyed in. So it's actually in blocks of text here. If we were to delete those, you can see that it's moving them all the way to the edges. And so we've got the half-inch margins on both sides. So we can see that that's there as well. That's another reason that we can tell what's going on, because we've got the hidden features showing. And so that will help you. I would suggest using that if you're having issues with formatting, to at least just check to see, is there something that's going on that we need to correct, and it makes it kind of easier to see those changes. So we see we've got a separate section here. It did not change our other sections, but that is the continuous section break. I do want you to see what would happen if we delete the section break now that we've made formatting changes. So if we come up here and we click before, not in front of the paragraph section, meaning that there was a line break there, but click here before the section break. If we delete this section break, what you'll see happen is that it changed the formatting of the section above it, so that now these are part of the same section, and so it went with this type of format. It gave us those half-inch margins. I'm going to undo that move, but I did want you to see what would happen if we delete the section breaks. It would have merged those two, and then you would have had only one section there. Another type of section break that I want you to see, we're not going to use it for this page, but our even page and odd page section breaks, what this would do would be to create a section for all the even pages or odd pages. This could be very useful if you were printing out materials, especially for a book, thinking about the way that you want it to be formatted, that you want the pages on the left side of the book or the right side of the binder to be a certain way. That would be a reason to use even page and odd page. Like maybe you only wanted page numbers on the even pages, or you only want them on the odd pages. But that just breaks them into sections the same way we've been working with, but it does it based on odd page or even pages. And those are found in that same section. And now that we've looked at the different types of breaks that can be added into a Word document, the last thing we're going to look at in this video is what size options are available. And so I do want you to see it's also in this page setup group that we've been working in. If we go to the size drop down, we can actually change the size of the paper. The default is set to letter. That's going to be your standard copy paper that you're going to print on, the 8.5 by 11 paper. But if you actually wanted it to be printed on legal size, or if you're working on a document that needs to be any other size, you can make those changes here. I'm going to go up to our title page just to show you what that would look like. So we're going to work within this section. So I'll click back in the title page. So now I have that selected, go to size, and then we can change it to legal. And that actually just makes the pages longer. And so you can see that the others actually stayed the same because they were in a different section, but this title page is now a longer piece of paper because we set it to a legal size paper. We could change that to whatever we wanted. So like if you were printing a title for a binder, you were going to print everything out and you wanted a smaller piece of paper, we could set it to a specific size or dimension that we would want. So like a postcard size, everything else has stayed the same. But that allows us to change the sizes. So in the next video, we'll look at some other features that we can do to use with text flow. But this has been looking at page breaks, orientation, margin, and paper size. Thanks for checking it out.